Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all. Thanks for introducing me there, Stefan. Nice to electronically meet you. Huh?
Yeah, welcome to Amsterdam Tech and the Tech Mind series.
Mm-hmm.
So great to have you talking about hands-on developer experience. Yeah, I prepared a few questions together with the Amsterdam Tech team. The first question I have is, in your opinion, why is it crucial for aspiring developers to engage in hands-on projects, and
Mm-hmm.
how can they best balance theoretical learning with more practical application?
Mm. Um, so I'm gonna answer this. I'm gonna do a little bit of background. So I studied at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam, and I also did a master's there. And a lot of it was very interesting. Don't get me wrong; it was a very good education I got there. Very happy with that. And a lot of it was theory, and the development side, the IT side of it, was the tool to understand the theory. That's how I would put it. And that was very helpful to get a grasp to a lot of the concepts. However, when I finished my studies, I went for a job. I figured, okay, what the language we used most was Java. So I figured, let's try to be a Java programmer, I guess. I didn't really feel like doing how do you call that, research into IT. That wasn't really my thing. I really wanted to build something because that was the thing I liked most. So I went that route, and I started at a company called Trifork. Still exists, actually. Um, and I was pretty overwhelmed, actually, by the amount of things you need to deal with on a hands-on experience. So that was I managed. I mean, I'm still here. I'm still very much enjoying my job, um, but I figured that a balance that was towards doing the hands, actually doing something, is very helpful, because you'll make mistakes, you'll learn new things, and especially by making those mistakes, you ingrain them more into your mind. So I really value of actually just building something, developing something. To me, that was or still is actually a very important tool to understand how to proceed with something.
So are you saying with that more or less your developer heart came alive when you actually started to do stuff compared to the more theoretical foundation that you had the years before?
Yeah, for me, that's definitely true. I mean, a lot of my peers during the courses were, I think, happier with what they were doing, with the focus on theory in there. I, in hindsight, would have likely preferred more of a practical thing to it.
Mm.
So more exercises, more team things, more trying out how to build application X, Y, Z. And well, like I said, I've been able to do so through the years. So I'm very happy I got that opportunity. Um, but that's what made it click for me better. Yeah.
Cool. And why Java? Was that sort of the off-the-shelf language you learned during your studies in Amsterdam, and therefore a logical choice, or were there like several programming languages that you were looking into, and this
Mhm.
one came up because it was what Trifork needed, or how did that sort of come along?
Very fair question. Yeah, the focused program courses were around Java. So the most broadened perspective of how to use a programming language for me was based on Java. I know that the year I was done, I think they switched that to Python at the Vrije Universiteit, because it was a bit more friendly on the syntax side. So yeah, it just came natural. I did most of it in Java, so I went that route. Which doesn't mean I only had Java, because I also did Python. There are also the scripting stuff was in there with JavaScript, CSS. I had some functional programming languages like Haskell and OCaml, C Sharp, C, all kinds of things. It was a bit to the discretion of the tutor what kind of language we used. So what tool we used to understand the theory, and that tool just always switched. For some, they use Java, but for me, Java just I have most of it in Java, so I figured I guess I'm going to be a Java developer.
Cool.
No.
Cool. Yeah, at Amsterdam Tech, there are also several hands-on projects taking place. And that also brings me a bit to the second question.
Yeah.
How did this hands-on experience complement your formal education in computer science? And yeah, what specific skills or insight did you gain that you wouldn't have from the theory alone?
Oh, how do I?
So
What would
focus on sort of the on-the-job experience. Like, what did you
yeah,
learn that wasn't handled in any textbook
yeah.
or prior to you
I
joining?
mean, a lot of the I think I personally am pretty good at just pushing knowledge in, and then I can rehash that knowledge. But actually seeing it in practice is, at least to me, very different. Because there is a certain domain that you use on the theory side. You pick a focus, and it's typically the education domain. Whereas while you're actually doing hands-on things for a client at somebody in the bank, in the financial industries, or somebody doing shopping domains, or maybe some governmental agency, it really changes what you're doing, and seeing it in different flows really helped for me to further cement the thought of what something is or what something means. Does that work a
Yeah.
bit?
Can you
Yeah.
give one example of such a flow? How should how do you visualize that, or how can the audience get sort of an understanding of what you mean by
Yeah,
flow?
yeah. So from theory, I mean, you look at you read a textbook and you get a description of a certain concept, how something is explained, but really using that theoretical tool in practice differs if you're building an application that is dedicated towards building an e-learning environment, or an application that is there to make a chat environment, or an application that is intended to be a shopping cart, for example. There are always certain gotchas that differ per domain that have impact on how you use the theory. So doing several hands-on experiences of something and not just in one angle, to me, was very valuable.
Cool. Yeah. So you get a broader perspective, and you can apply things, learn from it, iterate, and then see what you can do differently.
Yes,
Literally on the job. Yeah.
yes, exactly. Yes.
Great.
No.
Nice. Yeah. Then when it comes to a third question, I'm thinking of is, can you also share an example from your own career where hands-on experience directly contributed to your success? Yeah, maybe particularly in an open source development environment.
So yeah, like you stated at the start as well, I'm very busy in the open source environment. So I deal with Axon Framework, an open source framework that everybody can play with and contribute to. My one of my earliest projects, we used Axon Framework. Was very new to me back then, so I really had to do it on the job and understand the theory that's behind it, because there's a lot of theory behind it and the architectural concept that it helps with. And then I stuck there for, I think, 1.5, 2 years. I did that job. And I wanted to do something new. I really wanted to change the pace. I wanted to have different hands-on experiences at different domains. Luckily, there was another project that also wanted to use this open source software to build their application, which was more in the gaming corner and the betting corner, actually, in this case. So I went on site. I discussed pros and cons with them, and I could immediately, through the questions they had, I could recall the things I did at the previous job, at my previous hands-on experience, thinking, okay, no, you shouldn't go that route, because if you do this, this might go wrong, or this other flow might not work out. That was, I went there with a colleague of mine, which was still more junior than I was, at least at the time. And after we had that session with this potential client back then, she commended me for the way how I was picking it up and how quick I did that. And to me, that felt like, oh, that was like top of mind knowledge I just had available because I had experienced it before. So that was, that was very insightful. Thinking, okay, just doing this for me helps.
Yeah, and putting it into practice and then sort of duplicating the efforts in a different context, but you know the right way to do it.
Yeah,
That was the hands-on experience, putting into practice again, hands-on, I guess. So
yeah.
nice.
How this might relate a bit more to the open source side of it. I guess some of the attendees here are familiar with things like Stack Overflow. You also have, on Discourse, you also have a lot of places you can go to gain information about a certain language, a certain library, a certain architectural principle in IT. You can just attach yourself and see what's happening. I also did that, but then for Axon Framework, and then going through that process of seeing what all these different people coming from different sides of the world with different angles ask, or the issues they face, was such a great learning master to me as well. Because on your own, you can only do so many projects. You cannot, split yourself into doing 10 of those in a month or so. I typically, in the job, you're dedicated to a client, maybe 2 at a time, not that much more. Whilst if you take the, let's call it forum approach, that you see what other people are doing and you're just going to help out, well, that's so, yeah, that was very invaluable as well. And that is more of a open source mindset to me, because you're contributing on a different level. You're not necessarily contributing code. You're contributing on the understanding of other people of how to do something, how to solve it.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, another question. Do you have some words of advice for future students who are considering, going for a software engineering degree or doing something else in the domain of software? Could also be related to machine learning or AI or the broader meaning. So anything based on your own experience in the last years that you would say, hey, this is very important to consider?
I think there are 2 things that come to mind here. And the first of that is that when I was studying, I was really somebody that, I valued going to a party, meeting friends, having a drink. But there were a lot of students in my year that did plenty of these exercises in their own spare time. So IT or programming was their hobby as well. And I really like this. It's not really my hobby. It's not my thing. So for a very long, it's not really my thing. It is my thing, but it's not something I would do in my spare time. So for a very long time, I figured, okay, I'll be somewhere in the bottom rung because I'm not doing this on my spare time. I'm just okay, not very special. I think as times have changed, or the experience I've gained over the last 10 years, seeing how I'm interacting with people, the value I still provide, even though I'm not somebody that in the ethic I'm in right now, also programs at night or in the weekend, I'm still there. So what I want to say with this, if you also feel acquainted like that you like this, you're okay with this, but it's not 100% everything you do, nothing wrong with that. You'll still get there. If you find joy in solving puzzles, which programming to me is, to building something tangible, between quotes, because you can't really touch code, right? Then you'll find a way eventually. Just go for it. And I had a second point, which I honestly forgot. So my bad. This is definitely the most important one, though.
Good. Now we can always circle back to the other point another day. So
of course,
that would be great. Yeah, thanks, Stephen, for being with us. I'm just checking to see if we have some other questions from the audience, but let me see if I can find something in the comment section. And if there are no other questions, then we'll call it. I get a message now that there are no other questions right now. So
all right.
So then we'll call it a day. And thank you, Stephen, for being with us, for joining the TechMind series here at Amsterdam Tech. And it was a pleasure to having you here in the studio. So hope to see you again soon.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. This was fun. Like I said, I'm always willing to help. This is also helping. So
Great.
yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.